All right, fight fans, special guest on the line. I mean, he's an icon. He's a former world champion. He's a philanthropist. Listen, he's one of the most legendary boxers of all time. Big George Foreman joining us.
What's up, champ?
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
No,
our pleasure.
The pleasure's all ours. Big movie dropping in theaters the 28th of April. Big George Foreman. You know, George, when I first heard about this film, I thought it was long overdue. Obviously, you have such a legendary, not only career, but just life. How long has that been in the back of your mind before it came to fruition, like wanting to see a biopic of yourself?
I really didn't want to do it because as you go through life, especially a celebrity, you go through life trying to hide everything, really. You show what you want and hide the rest, of course. But to do a movie, you got to come on out and tell it like it is. And bring your story, all the things you tried to hide, you got to bring them to light again. And it's been a few years now, I decided I was presented a script that I could live with. And the people at Affirm and Sony Pictures, they brought it to life.
Now, were you involved in a casting? Like as far as the actors, did you have to approve of obviously who played you, but everybody else?
Yeah, I had a chance to do all with that, but I remember fighting the script first. Then once I saw the script and something good could come of it, it didn't matter. I just wanted a good actor to play me. So I tried to, not too many cooks in the kitchen, if you ask me. I just want to be the cooker of the script and the book. Right. And Hollywood had to find their own actor. But they found a great actor in Chris Davis. My goodness. He is George Foreman. I'm just a stand-by.
Oh my gosh, you're the stand-in. I get it. So what was the hardest part for you to share with the public or maybe even see on the big screen?
Yeah, when you go back in your life, you don't mind sharing your victories, but there were
exactly.
There were defeats. I had to live up to some of the defeats I suffered in life. Yeah. And that's not easy. When you get beat, especially losing my title in Africa to Muhammad Ali, people can say whatever they wanted, but I wanted to keep it a secret. Years would go by. Don't keep telling that part. But they revealed the whole adventure in the movie, and I had to live through it. And at the end of the day, it was a triumph. My whole life was a triumph anyway, starting from nothing.
Right.
Praise God. Now, watching the Ali film played by Will Smith, I'm pretty sure you watched that. How hard was it to watch that scene of you losing your title in that film?
It is strange because I'd had to live so many years with being defeated by Muhammad Ali. Then when I saw that movie, I said, now I got to suffer through losing to Will Smith now? So it's not easy, funny. But movie making tells a lot of stories. All of them are important.
Well, you had a lot of great moments at two different times in your life. What was the greatest moment in the ring?
Oh, there were several great moments, but an Olympic gold medal. I was a 19-year-old boy who'd never had a dream to come true. That night when I won that gold medal, standing on that platform, listening to the national anthem in the background, nothing becomes second to that moment. What a happy, I still wake up sometime and think, did that really happen?
Wow.
Has this been a joke all along? That was the most magnificent moment of my life in sports.
Wow. You know, you had, speaking of sports and moments in your life, you had so many great chapters throughout your life. And one was being a broadcaster on HBO Boxing. Do you ever miss those moments, chopping it up with Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley? Like, how much do you miss that?
Oh, that was a good time in my life. They invited me on for like 2 or 3 years. And then it went on, and George, you're doing good, another 3 years. And I told my wife, I said, I don't want a job. That's why I went into boxing. But then they keep offering me those contracts. And I couldn't. And finally, after 13 years, I was able to walk away from it. But I enjoyed it because I would tell stories about boxing. And my wife said, you make the kids look good on boxing. I remember that as good. And fighting with Larry Merchant. I remember after I left boxing, I left boxing, my wife said, look, I'm not going to be your Larry Merchant. You're not going to be fighting with me, telling me off. So I did end up missing that.
No, you guys had some amazing, some amazing battles verbally. But what would be your most memorable, exciting fight to watch while you were calling?
James Toney. I saw him fight as a middleweight, and he was a throwback to everything I'd heard about boxing in the early days, everything I'd seen prior to my career. This guy could box, and I watched him win one of his titles on television. And I know, boy, this was it. And I enjoyed it. And I had named all my boys George. I remember saying, if I have another son, I'm going to name him James Toney.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Tony in his prime was great.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny because they called him a throwback fighter, and you happen to love him. I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Right. You came back in your late 30s to fight again. You needed money or whatever. But I always wanted to know, did you have like time before you did your first fight back in 1987? Or were all of those 24 fights before you fought Evander Holyfield like you're training for the top guys? Or did you have like 8 weeks before you came back to the sport?
No, I started from the bottom. Everyone told me you can never be champ of the world again. Mm-hmm. And I studied all the guys who tried in their latter years, even Joe Louis and even Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. They came back, but they wanted to start from the top all over again.
Right.
I knew if I was going to become champ of the world, I'd have to start from the bottom and build my way up, which means I'd have to look at myself as a youth again, not look at myself as an old man desperate for the Cadillac in the window. I could actually start from the bottom and go all the way back up again.
So when you started from the bottom, did you have a period where you were training before you even started? How long was that?
Yeah, I started training. I left boxing for 10 years.
Yep.
I didn't even make a fist. I walked away from boxing. I couldn't even look at boxing anymore because I fought with such rage and anger, and I didn't have it anymore. So I thought I didn't have it anymore, but I learned how to fight, never punch in anger. I learned by teaching kids that I learned.
Wow.
Who would you say you learned that from? I mean, was that within, or were you working with certain trainers?
From the Bible.
I learned this rage. I pick up this rage. Our stablemate, Sonny Liston, the great Sonny Liston.
Wow.
We were stablemates, and I'd walk around with him. We'd eat, take walks together, and people would walk by him and say, "How do you do?" And he just looked past them. And this guy was filled with a lot of rage, and I thought, that's the way you're going to have to be champ of the world. And I copied him a lot. And then the anger started to build. I think Sonny Liston, after a while, wanted to tell me, "Ease up, son."
You too angry.
The angry man. Then given a second chance, teaching those kids who would come to my youth center, that was a good world. You don't have to be angry. I taught them how to box, but you don't need anger. And teaching them, I learned. That's why I was able to come back again. I didn't need the rage and anger. I didn't need the anger anymore.
Speaking about coming back, you came back and became champion again at 45. Was that accomplishment bigger than doing the George Foreman grill and making millions?
I want to tell you the truth. I became an Olympic gold medalist. Mm-hmm. And that I was a 19-year-old boy who had never had a dream to come true. That was the most spectacular moment in my life. I didn't know dreams come true. I've not lived that down yet. Lived it down. The grill, I didn't think I would sell any more than 16 of them, but I thought I'd buy them myself, give them to my aunt and cousins and my mom. Yeah. And I thought that would be all I'd get out of it. That thing sold 120 million worldwide. I still can't believe impossible. But it's sold because
are you still spending work. Are you still spending George Foreman grill money?
That's it. And I was about to run out. I need another one. You guys got one? It was a thrill to sell. And I became good at selling things, mainly because I was preached on the street. and you're on the street corner preaching, and most people are headed somewhere, coming back from somewhere, and you can't make them stop unless you're doing something good. And I carried on the show and selling religion, selling God, and talking about Jesus on the street corner, and they will stop for a moment. So I learned to sell, and it led me to selling grills.
Wow.
Now, George, I want to talk a little bit about boxing. This day and age. I mean, how much do you keep up with the sport? Are you still a fan of the sport and watch the big fights that are happening nowadays?
I like boxing and I keep up with it, but you really got to be a good fighter to make me watch you.
So can you talk about some of those fighters that are good enough to catch your eye? Can you give me like your top five favorite fighters that are active today?
Well, I saw Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I saw that fight and each of their boxing matches, and I was thrilled, and I became a fan of boxing. To tell you I'm a fan of boxing, I'm really a fan of those guys. And then in the middleweight division, the guy from Mexico, I keep forgetting his name.
Canelo Alvarez?
Canelo, wow. I saw his life develop. He reminded me so much, not in style, but of George Foreman. He believed he could knock out anybody, and that's the way I felt. I saw him fight, wasn't doing well. The next thing you know, he had a knockout.
Yep.
And he's still one that I like to follow.
Yeah.
That's the reason I got that app that we're talking on with you. That's why I bought it, following Canelo.
Right. And speaking of that, Anthony Joshua, a British former heavyweight champion, we were just in London watching him. How do you compare the heavyweights of today? They're giants, they're big, 6'6", 6'7", to your era.
Oh, yeah, there have always been big fighters, great big fighters, but they never did do well in boxing. Today, there's some great big tall guys who can really fight, and I'm happy about that. But the greatest fighters in the heavyweight division will always be guys that are not that big. I think that Joe Frazier, even Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali was not as tall as I was. These guys, there's a mid-range where you're going to get greatness at. And that's what I'm still looking for, a guy that's a normal weight and size. As we saw, the old saying is the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yes, sir.
Sad for me, I was one of those big guys who failed.
Oh, man.
Well, you made a lot of guys fall before that, so.
That's for sure. Yeah, when we talk about the hardest punches, we talk about Deontay Wilder, guys like that, Shavers. Yeah. Who was the hardest puncher you ever fought?
Oh, I fought way back in the day, Ron Lyle. This guy hit me so hard, it didn't even hurt. It was like, boom, I'd hit the floor. And then and look, what am I doing down here? Why are my legs trembling like that? And I couldn't figure out it was a puncher. This man punching, if I had felt it, I wouldn't have gotten knocked down twice. But he hit me so hard, but I had to get up. I'd lost to Muhammad Ali, and I had excuses, and I couldn't think of a good excuse this time while laying there. I said, I better get up. And I fought, and finally he beat me up so bad that he just gave out, and I won the boxing match.
George, what is being that we're promoting a movie here and your life story, what is your favorite boxing movie?
Oh, I've had so many of them. The Raging Bull comes out instantly. Yes. I love that movie, The Raging Bull, De Niro. And I think Chris Davis did equally a good job in portraying the real boxing stories, what goes on behind the boxing scene. And I'll treasure this movie as much as The Raging Bull because of Chris Davis.
Listen, you mentioned several times losing your title to Muhammad Ali. Obviously, such an iconic figure. He's done so much for people outside of the ring. How was your relationship with Ali before he passed away?
Oh, and after I lost the fight, vengeance is mine, says George. I wanted him again. I wanted revenge. I wanted to beat the guy. I didn't like him anymore. But then once I found my stand and found God, and we became good friends again, talking on the telephone, I loved the guy.
Yeah.
We became the best of friends.
Wow.
He still wanted to win everything. How many children you got? Grandkids, George? I got 3. Or I have 4. I always wanted to win.
Competitive.
And
So
we
competitive.
talked, and then the advent of FaceTime. We didn't even talk, watching each other on the camera.
Wow.
Man, a lovely time in my life
That's
was
beautiful.
Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
What a wonderful time in my life having him as a friend.
Oh, that's
Still
so
a
great.
guy you wouldn't want to take. He's still a guy you wouldn't want to take fishing with you because, quiet, man, I got a bite. You know, keep talking.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we want to, before we get out of here, I want to play a game called a Stand and Nate, right? George, this is where Barack and myself, we shoot 8 rapid fire questions to you. You got to answer them quick. First thing that comes to your mind. First one. One team has to go. The Houston Texans or the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, let them stay both. Let them stay both.
All right.
Dallas Cowboys, I'll die.
All right. Well, we'll give you a break on that
Dallas
one.
Cowboys.
Go ahead, bro.
All right, you can slide. The most skillful boxer of all time.
The most skillful boxer of all time would be Joe Louis. A lot of people say it's Sugar Ray Robinson, but Joe Louis, he'd hit you with one shot and you'd be assured to get hit with 3 more.
All right. Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson. Pick one.
Mike Tyson, a phenomenon.
Okay.
Joe
Fastest-
Frazier, a tough guy, but Mike Tyson, a phenomenon.
Yes.
Where in the world did he come from?
Brooklyn. Fastest fighter you ever fought.
Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
He hit me with the most fast right hand that I never saw. I had to go back to the movies. Oh, that's what he hit me with.
All right. Pick one Mexican fighter. Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. or Canelo Alvarez?
Oh, Canelo Alvarez. I mean, what a splendid fighter that is.
Oh, we so agree with you. Your toughest fight you ever had.
Ron Lyle. Not only did I fight him, but I had to fight with myself. I had to get up off the canvas.
Yes, sir.
Best advice you've ever been given?
A preacher told me once, just talking, he said, George, you have 4 pockets there in your pants. I said, yep. He said, remember, one pocket you never spend. You got to save. And he was right. I always put something in one pocket I didn't spend.
Amen.
That's good advice. I need to take some of that advice because I
Exactly.
got a spending habit.
All right, last one.
Keep that advice now.
Yes. Who was scarier, George Foreman or Sonny Liston?
Boy, walking up the steps to spar with Sonny Liston the first time, it was like dead men walking, dead men walking. Sonny Liston was a terror. He even looked the part of a terror.
Yeah.
Well, listen, George, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we could talk for hours here about so many stories. Look, on the 28th of April, big George Foreman drops in theaters nationwide. Can't wait for you guys to see this one. Thanks, George.
Thank you, champ.
Thank you, guys.
Introducing the new DAZN Boxing Show podcast. No matter the time or the place, getting your boxing content has become easier than ever. Tune in as we give you exclusive insights, predictions, fight night recaps, and more alongside the biggest names in the game. All for free. Available globally every Thursday across all audio streaming platforms and with new episodes dropping weekly to give you the latest news. Just type in the DAZN Boxing Show podcast, listen in, and enjoy.